Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
It never stops being a sort of treat and a marvel to see people just arriving from so many different places. I'm still amazed every time. So, Flint, I imagine you know by heart the chant that Josh used this morning about the Tathaga's taste the Tathaga's words, and
That's the one I usually use. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Now, if you unmute there in the room, that's the one you were thinking of, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to say a little bit of it.
Yep.
I'm going to say a little bit of it, and then all of you can chant it back to me. Okay. See if I can do this with breaking it up. I'll say it first. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma.
An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma
Is rarely met with.
Is rarely met with.
Even in 100,000 million kalpas.
Even in 100,000 million kalpas.
Having it to see and listen to.
Having it to see and listen to.
To remember and accept.
To remember and accept.
I vow to taste the truth.
I vow to taste the truth.
Of the Tathagata's words.
Of the Tathagata's words.
It's nice when you say it, isn't it? Yeah. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma. And Josh made some comments on it, I know. It's a beautiful chant, and I really enjoy using it, especially if you don't take it personally, if you're the one teaching.
So it sounds like you're off and running. So welcome to our second night together. And
oh, did you want to say something more?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Gallery, so I can see more of you when I'm speaking. I need the contact. You know, we were talking about being alone yesterday. And when I'm spotlighted, which is useful for you, I think, so you can connect with me, but I want to connect with you. And so if I put it on gallery view, I can see a good bit of you, not all of you, because there are certain things I'm referring to, of course, but your faces and your presence make a difference. One of the things that I'm just remembering, one of the things that Blanche would always focus on when she taught in any way around that chant we just did, is it, and you've heard me say this, she would always emphasize the very last line, I vow to taste. So the vow is to have an embodied encounter with the Dharma. Taste is so primal and so personal. Josh spoke about the immediacy of experience as opposed to our reflective second or third hand version of experience, all of which are useful, but that immediacy is where the aliveness is. And so when it says, I vow to taste the truth, it doesn't say, I vow to make a commentary on, or even, you know, earlier it says to see and listen to remember and accept, but it's not philosophizing really too much. It's immediacy, like taste. So hopefully there's you're left with a pleasant taste in some way from our times together. I really appreciated Josh's use of Coleman Barks' Love Dogs. It's such a wonderful poem and such a beautiful expression of this longing, which of course is part of the energy I feel in reaching out over this long distance, you know. When Coleman was last in Austin and offering a presentation at a chapel in the Presbyterian Seminary just off of the University of Texas campus. And he was there because of the, well, there's very little defense that you can have against Judy Myers if she gets set on something, right, Cassie? And she brought him, you know, and the first poem he read was Love Dogs. It was the first in the collection he read that evening. And that sense of longing, which can be the most wholesome, a sense of communion and connection, but which sometimes has when translated, like in one of our dedication vows, freed from longing, I would say that it is more freed from unwholesome grasping in a certain way. I can't say that I ever met John Denver. No love or no love, but I did meet Coleman that night. And some of you probably heard the story, but it's worth remembering because it speaks to this. You know, I've always loved his translations of Rumi. And there's a special quality which I appreciated him also because he's from the South in the United States. And I come from the South, or at least the Southwest. And he sounds like one of my uncles or something when he talks. Now, one of the things I love about being in the UK is all of you are very precise about your accents, meaning you can say, oh, that person is from this place. And I hear the difference, but I can't locate them. You know? But I can in the United States, of course. And Coleman was born in Kentucky. He spent most of his time in the Carolinas and is on faculty at the University of Georgia. Although I think he's retired now. He's 87 and has had a significant stroke since the last time I saw him. He's not doing very well. But that evening in Austin, he was there to read poetry, and he had just published this book. The title of which is kind of interesting, is it Soul Fury? And it's about his friend Shams, his mentor, which he really loved. And so he spoke a little bit about it. And after his presentation, there was what normally happens in these events, there's a book signing, since it was a new book. And so big, long lines, which I detest. So I didn't want to get in the queue. And I waited around and talked to friends. But then it began to get short. So I stood in line because I didn't want to get my book signed. And so I finally got there and I opened it up, and he looked up at me and said, and what's your name? How should I sign it? And I said, my name was Flint Sparks. He said, really? And I said a few things, and I said I was a Zen teacher in the Soto lineage from Suzuki Roshi. And he said, oh, I've been reading Dogen lately. And I said, really? That's the lineage I'm in. But it prompted me to remember a line from Rumi, and I said it And as I said it, he joined me and then he finished the poem. It was a beautiful moment of meeting. And then he looked at me and in that old gravelly bear, beautiful voice of his, he said, I might have to take you home with me. But it was an expression of that kind of friendship, which is at the heart of all of the work of Rumi. And in fact, you can't read it, I don't think. If you see the page which he inscribed, it says, for Flint in friendship. And let me read just a moment from his introduction, because it relates to what we're doing here, what we've always done, the nature of our teachings, which are profoundly relational. And I'm going to, excuse me, take off my computer glasses and put on my reading glasses. So, anyone relate to this?
Yeah.
And so, pardon my looking down a little bit here. And just the first line, you see that he's right with us. He asks a question in the first line of his introduction. What are the qualities of a deepening awareness? What are the qualities of a deepening awareness? To some, it feels right to call that the friend. This is what Rumi would use. For others, it is more like a spaciousness, an emptiness or silence. Many of Rumi's short poems circle around the delight and the impossibility of saying this blessed inwardness, this friendship. Aren't these beautiful words? This impossibility of saying this blessed inwardness, this friendship. What is it to drop the ego, to let go, to surrender, to trust? And I would insert, well, what is it to enter a week-long intensive, to surrender to the schedule, to trust? And Coleman again, all the quatrains of Rumi and all the sayings of his teacher, Shams, are trying, and they're different and combining forms of soul, fury, and kindness to help that happen in each reader. It often does not happen all at once. The final push of the ego over into the dissolution or rebirth. That's why we sit for more than one day and have more than one talk. Rumi always works in tandem. So remember, I'm talking about us here too. Rumi always works in tandem with a friend or friends. Or to say it another way, his poetry is communal with very personal touches. You hear this in Trudy's poetry also. It's difficult to describe the process, but we all have probably experienced it. Out of his deep friendship with Shams Tabriz came the overflowing creativity of his collections. At the end of his poems, where the poet traditionally signs the poem by mentioning his own name, you will never find Rumi's name there. Most often he mentions Shams, but sometimes another friend, Saladin Zarqub, a goldsmith. He wouldn't sign them with his own name. The interior of a Rumi poem is friendship with a specific human being and with the mystery of Allah, which he calls the friend, or the unsayable absence, or daylight, or night, or the presence inside the growing springtime green, which all of you are seeing there, or many other things. Rumi's poetry is very consciously engaged in collaborative listening and making. The friendships and the powerful conversational dynamic going on in and around it, there in the moment of its making, that immediacy. The poems come out of his love. And perhaps we love them for the glimpses they give of that, as well as for the light and for the grief, for the taste of how it is to be and how it is to be nothing at all. There's the taste of the Tathagata's word, for the taste of how it is to be and how it is to be nothing at all. Here's a very small Rumi poem for you in Colesman translation. It's Rumi brings a gift. And I love this poem partly because it's a very apt poem to consider when you're asked to give a Dharma talk, which is a gift. And it begins with the line, "You have no idea how hard I've looked for a gift to bring you." That's really the feeling I have with every inquiry, every Dharma talk. You have no idea how hard I've looked for a gift to bring you. Nothing seemed right. And then the teaching, what's the point of bringing gold to the gold mine or water to the ocean? Everything I come up with was like taking spices to the Orient. It's no good giving my heart and my soul because you already have these. So I brought you a mirror. Look at yourself and remember me. You have no idea how hard I've looked for a gift to bring you. Nothing seemed right. What's the point of bringing gold to the gold mine or water to the ocean? Everything I had come up with was like taking spices to the Orient. It's no good giving my heart and my soul because you already have these. So I brought you a mirror. Look at yourself and remember me. That would be an okay place to stop, wouldn't it? In some way. I won't, but sometimes I despair a bit about like, what should I talk about again and again and again? And yet it's important. And this great mirror, I mentioned yesterday the name that I had given Carolyn Miles, our student who died last week, Daikyo Konen, great mirror, illumination, love. The great, the first character, Dai, great, means vast, distinguished, certainly big and spacious. But there's also a quality of maturity, of being older and growing up. And I'm giving you these deepening parts of the meaning because I actually think this is what's happening with the Sangha. Not only in the UK, but all of you together. There's a vast, distinguished, spacious quality to what's come out of all these years together. And the second character, Kyo, which means mirror, clear or polished. Mirror, but also a looking glass. What's a looking glass? It's something that you could peer through, but also reflects. Mirror, a looking glass. We see each other, we see ourselves through each other, we reflect each other to ourselves and to each other. that last line is so tender and Rumi. Look at yourself and remember me. But also through the illumination, Ko, the next symbol in her name, Ko, the emission of light, to shine or be bright. It also has a quality of hope or vision, being carried forward by that looking and by that reflection, by that spaciousness that we open to in retreat. And the last character, Nin, love, it's not an emotion. It's this universal benevolence, compassion, our sense of humanity, charity and consideration, these great qualities of a bodhisattva, really. If you do like I sometimes do and sometimes turn it around and go backwards, love, illumination, mirror, great, is this bodhisattva emerging, shining her light, full of possibility. And in it, we see our own reflection, which allows us to be more spacious. Exactly what Rumi is also talking about. Some of you know that there's a story. I think Trudy has taught on it in the past, and I hope she'll bring her poem maybe is in her weaving tomorrow as we continue to weave the ancient brocade here, about the convent at Tokeji, which were only nuns, because I'm sorry?
It's Lynn's poem, not mine.
Oh, is it? Okay, I thought it was yours. You had read it, yeah. Thank you. But you might bring it anyway.
Mm.
If you want, you don't have to. So this convent of nuns, and this is another issue we're touching on here, is gender, which Neo had brought up yesterday so well. The founding abbess, Kakuzan Shiro, would meditate in front of the mirror in order to, what she called, to see into her own nature. And then later generations continued that practice of sitting zazen in front of a mirror. You might try it sometime. I have a small mirror that's only about this big, and it's surrounded by a gorgeous piece of wood. It was a cedar tree from the hill country in Texas, and the tree had been cut. So it's a sliver out of the tree, and the inside is hollowed out, and the mirror is glued to the back of it. So you look through the heartwood, what would be the heartwood of the tree, and you see a mirror. And in the places where the worms have eaten holes, the artist has put turquoise, embedded turquoise, and it's really beautiful. And I set at one of those little stands, like you set a card on or something, on the altar in retreat last week, and I will, so that when you look at the altar, it's right in front of the Buddha. You look at the Buddha, guess who you see? But this is a tiny mirror, and the question that this founding abbess suggested that the nuns sit with is, where is a single feeling, a single thought in the mirror image at which I gaze? So she's suggesting you see this image, but in the image, is there a feeling? Is there a thought? You look into your own nature, is it described by thoughts and feelings, or the immediacy of what's shown? And so each abbess of Tokeji after that would write a verse in response to the mirror practice. Princess Yodo, who's the fifth abbess, wrote this, which I actually used in our service the other day with Carolyn as she was experiencing the dissolution of her own body. Here's the poem. Heart unclouded, heart clouded, standing or falling, it's still the same body. Whether we're clouded or unclouded, whether we're upright or falling, we're still ourselves. We're still crossing the bridge, remember? Horses cross, asses cross, it's still the same crossing. And so no matter what you think or feel, how you evaluate or judge your life, what you hope for or are terrified about, the reflection, however it looks, is still your embodied existence, just as it is. Sometimes it looks this way, sometimes it looks that way. Another nun wrote, various reflections, yet the surface is unscarred from the very beginning, unclouded, a pure mirror. Each reflection is unique, but the surface is unscarred, surface of our true nature, from the very beginning, unclouded, pure. Speaking of the relative and absolute, another nun wrote, even without a mirror to reflect things, every time one looks, there is a mirror reflecting things in the heart. Whether it's looking at a peony or looking into the washing up bubbles in front of you in the kitchen, there is a mirror reflecting things in the heart. Curiously, Zoom does this, we're looking at each other, but you see yourself. It's the only time we see ourselves in practice, usually, if we're online, because you see your own image, unless you try to hide it, which many of us do. But I suggest, take a look, tolerate looking at yourself. This question about, who we really are, and also how gender fits in this is part of what's woven into the Brocade, of course. And I mentioned that my mother, who you saw a picture of yesterday, loves to knit and crochet. She's always done this. And she makes small blankets for every person she knows who has a baby. And she makes what she calls prayer shawls for people to put over them, like when they're sitting, zazen. And in the last couple of years, she's not doing it as much. And I realize it's because she can no longer keep the count. Her cognitive capacities have diminished, so she can't follow the pattern. But in the last month, she's taken it up again. I don't think she's concerned about what it becomes. I think she just enjoys the process. I was like, oh, if I could only teach that to all my students in Zazen. Unconcerned about keeping the count or what it ends up looking like, but that you wholeheartedly engage the process. She has endless amounts of yarn, so she just keeps going, I think it's comforting to her. Mm-hmm. So I like watching her do it. I was speaking to a young father this week about his witnessing his wife delivering their first child. And he said in a very blunt kind of way, women are it, man. When you watch that happen, it is so humbling and so powerful and so overwhelming. Men should just bow down. I said, wow, pretty much, It's like you can't even believe that this human being can emerge from this human being and this could happen. Suddenly there's another person there. Anyway, he's going on and on. Things that we know, but that immediacy really struck him.
Probably struck her too.
Say that again, I didn't hear it.
I said it probably struck her too.
Well, yeah, he was. But I only say it because, we all know about birth, but from man's perspective, who's never going to be able to do that, and to realize the centrality and essential nature of a woman in a way maybe he'd never let himself feel in an embodied way. It's kind of the tissue way of understanding it, like tasting the truth. It's like feeling it in a different way. And you chant the hymn to the perfection of wisdom. Do you have your chant things there with you? Or is it? No? Okay. I'm going to just, don't worry about it. I'm going to, this is very short. I think that the one that you're using is this one. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy. Their perfection of wisdom gives light. Unstained, the entire world cannot stain her. She is a source of light, and from everyone in the triple world she removes darkness. Most excellent are her works. She brings light so that all fear and distress may be forsaken, and disperses the gloom and darkness of delusion. She herself is an organ of vision. She has a clear knowledge of the own being of all dharmas, for she does not stray away from it. The perfection of wisdom of the Buddhas sets in motion the wheel of Dharma. For those of you that have addiction to books like I do, this book by Lex Hickson, Mother of the Buddhas, Meditations on the Prajnaparamita. And here's the name. Can you see the name? Okay. This, it's a little, you read it, it's like you're on drugs or something. It's very transcendent. But here is his translation of what I just chanted, because that's the one I have memorized. So I don't have this one memorized, but here's his translation. Listen to the qualities. The wisdom mother is worthy of infinite praise. She is utterly unstained because nothing in this insubstantial world can possibly stain her. She is an ever-flowing fountain of incomparable light. And from every conscious being on every plane of being, she removes the faintest trace of illusory darkness. The wisdom mother, the matrix, guide, power and bliss of all Buddhas and their embryonic forms, the Bodhisattvas, sets in motion the wheel of Dharma. I quite like that one. I don't know how you, but there's a lot in there. The first line is plenty. The wisdom mother is worthy of infinite praise. She's utterly unstained because nothing in this insubstantial world could possibly stain her. In other words, the uncreated, the absolute, the unconditioned is not subject to conditions. So nothing in the conditioned world would harm her. And similar to the name that I was giving Carolyn, she is an ever-flowing fountain of incomparable light. And from every conscious being, on every plane of being, she removes the faintest trace of illusory darkness. Who knows what that means? But I take it to mean that as one in practice gains accord with this infinite mother, infinite wisdom, infinite light, realizing it as your own in that mirror, that illusory darkness disappears. And then he says, the wisdom mother, the matrix, that's interesting. The wisdom mother, which is actually the existence tissue, the matrix of everything, who is a guide, and the power and bliss of all Buddhas and their embryonic forms, bodhisattvas. I like that. All of that sets in motion the wheel of Dharma. Just like every human is only set in motion by a mother. So Prajnaparamita is the goddess of wisdom. We hear all the time about Manjushri being the bodhisattva of wisdom. which is often male. But Prajnaparamita is the Buddhist goddess of wisdom, a personification of this wise kind of knowledge that's revealed in the Prajnaparamita Sutras. That's the Heart Sutra, is the heart of the Prajnaparamita Sutras, which are quite vast, which is the foundation of Mahayana Buddhism. So the term Prajnaparamita combines prajna, which is wisdom, and paramita, as you know, which is perfection. So paramita is sometimes interpreted as having like reached the opposite shore of samsara. The Prajnaparamita is the perfection of wisdom or transcendental wisdom, the highest stages that would be reached by a bodhisattva. And by practicing the paramitas, I mean, this is just some technical things. You know, when we practice with generosity, morality, patience, energy, wisdom, and meditation or concentration, trying to remember them all, those 6 paramitas are what a bodhisattva practices to come in alignment with Prajnaparamita, with the mother. And in the early, I didn't bring up a lot of iconography, you can take a look at it, but in the early Mahayana text, the goddess is portrayed as this beautiful feminine figure. And a side note, what I thought really interesting is when I was looking at these, Trudy, they had various ways, but all of them had their legs open. They weren't quite as revealing as some of the images that you've shown, but I thought it was very interesting. Nothing can exist without the mother. Nothing exists without emptiness. So Prajnaparamita becomes the mother of everything. She's this cosmic feminine who embodies the highest principle of the essence of enlightened wisdom, because she's the fountain of everything. The natural fact that I was just referring to of all embodied beings being biologically derived from a female body is reflected in this notion of everything emerging from the Great Mother. So she's the mother of all Buddhas, and depicted in this sort of parental but powerful way of omniscience that imbues the quality of Buddhahood to whoever practices with her. It's said that, I was looking up at the qualities, like a mother who takes care of her children, she provides protection for the seekers of truth, and especially those who want to understand the nature of reality. It's very similar to those lines that are picked up in the Metta Sutta, remember? Even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child. So with a boundless mind, she wants to cherish all living beings, above, below, and all right. That's what it's referring to, actually. It's Prajnaparamita. So I wanted to just bring this forth, so as you chant it, you really understand the centrality of feminine energy in this aspect of the deepest wisdom. I want to share 2 poems before I finish. One of them is a moment of moving into the difficulties of everyday life and finding a deep compassion. And I can't remember what in Josh's talk prompted me to this one, but I really love this poem. And another is about the transformation of the energies that we find there. So let's just start with the first one. The title of the poem is "How Are We Doing?" By Nancy Miller Gomez from the United States. And those of you in the UK, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have times where you have to go to, I don't know, some agency or something to get your driver's license?
Yep.
Or and maybe in Switzerland too, and it's kind of a pain, and there's so much bureaucracy and all these people, you know what I'm talking about? So this point is situated in such a place, and it's called in the United States the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. So you'll hear that, and if you're not familiar with it, that's what's being referred to. But I bet you'll recognize the situation. Here's the point. The man working window 11 at the DMV wears his name tag around his neck like a medal won in a war he never signed up for. Even from here, 3 people back, I can see Frank is having a bad day. He keeps tapping the same key, hoping the computer will do something different. Poor Frank tapping harder and harder, pausing sometimes to stare owl-eyed at the young woman waving her paperwork as if she's trying to ignite a dying fire. Her pretty face has grown ugly in her anger. She smacks the counter, demanding to know the problem. Roused from a desk, a grenade-shaped woman drifts over to hover and watch him struggle. She gives directions in a tight, managerial voice, so unmusical you call it noise, while Frank continues to tap and tap until finally she commandeers the keyboard, fixes the issue, and walks off, leaving the stamping and stapling to Frank, who hustles with a deference that hurts to watch. Meanwhile, the man in front of me has fallen victim to time and huffed out of the building. But Frank, I want to lean over the counter into your small personal space and straighten your reading glasses that have gone askew. The broken frames hang cockeyed off the thin bridge of your nose like pipe cleaners in a preschool project. I want to batten down that little piece of your hair sticking up, except I'm still in a line that isn't moving. I fear the office will close before I have a chance to tell you how sorry I am that life has brought you here to this place where all these people unwind like a frayed rope into the unhappy well of your workdays. But finally, it's my turn, Frank, till you look you in the eyes and ask you to process my papers. How hard is it really to notice the way you bunch one corner of your mouth into a half smile or blink at the mention of your name, a name I've carried in my heart for all these 20 minutes? So when you hand me back my temporary license, along with a form that asks, how are we doing? I want to believe there's someone watching over us to whom I can respond. Please, we're not doing well here. We have so little time for kindness. We're lonely and hurting. The doors to the building have been locked. The office is empty, and night has just begun. How hard is it really to notice when I mention your name? How are we doing? And that one line where he says, how people become frayed like a rope, you know, the unweaving. But we've all had this feeling, right? This feeling of so much distress, and yet calls us to care, that calls us, if we can, to overcome, not deny, because that's the poet does such a good job. It doesn't deny a thing. She describes it in exquisite and excruciating detail of what it's actually like. And there's some humor in it because it's so insane in some ways. But the empathy of putting oneself in the place of Frank here and realizing how tough it is for all of us. And that we all share that. And yet there's a success. Things got worked out. They got sorted. And they went on. But what do we do with that? So I want to follow it with another poem in the conversation, another weaving, a poem that you've heard me use in inquiry by an Austin poet, Alfred Hufstekler, who has passed away but lived in the neighborhood where Appamada is situated. There's actually a park named for him and a plaque. And this poem is on the plaque. It's called The Cure. What are we to do with all this, the cure? He writes, we think we get over things. We don't get over things. Or say, we get over the measles, but not a broken heart. We need to make that distinction. The things that become part of our experience never become less a part of our experience. How can I say it? The way to get over a life is to die. Short of that, you move with it. Let the pain be pain, not in the hope that it will vanish, but in the faith it will fit in, find its place in the shape of things, find its place in the shape of things, and be then not any less pain, but true to form, because anything natural has an inherent shape and will flow towards it. And life is as natural as a leaf. That's what we're looking for. Not the end of things, but the shape of it. That's what we're looking for. Not the end of things, but the shape of it. Wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating or getting over a single instant of it. Wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating or getting over a single instant of it. This is the liberation of the Buddha. Not obliterating anything, not suddenly making everything okay. It is relief and freedom within all the suffering that is just the way it is. And can we find the shape of our lives and appreciate it deeply? And finding the restoration of joy in the midst of it all. The moment of saying one thing to Frank, the moment of appreciating the shape of our life and the shape of the life of the person sitting next to us, and using our mirror of relationality and our communal practice, as Shams and Rumi talk about, to make something beautiful, to bring that gift of what it means to have the word that Josh used earlier, which is one of Suzuki Roshi's favorite words, composure. Have some composure. Practice in Zazen.
I think we've just lost him for a moment, but he'll log back on in a moment, I would think.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, all right. I don't know what happened. But these things happen, don't they? And can we maintain composure in the midst of things falling away? And make of our lives, this is some of what Josh spoke about, but the way I think about it is to make something beautiful of our lives. Can we actually make something beautiful? I was with a bunch of people recently who were Dharma folks, and Aaron happened to be there. And he always thinks of himself as kind of being on the side, and not really participating too much. but those of you that have been with him know it's otherwise. And somebody just turned to him without realizing he doesn't answer questions like this. They said, "What is your practice?" And he said immediately, "Making beauty." And you know it's true. That's where he finds composure. And it's that question of, can we make something beautiful of our life? So let yourself just sit for a moment. And I'm going to offer you a reflection. I just want you to sit with it before we end. And as we sit together online, in person, can our sitting be the silent acknowledgement as we sit with at least a little bit of composure, a little bit of upright presence? Can we acknowledge the universality of everyday struggles that we have and our ordinary human fears of the suffering that we experience? And also notice that edge we probably meet in sitting where we're kind of reluctant to lean in to where we find the suffering. For fear that we'll just carry more burdens. And can we acknowledge in the shared mirror of sitting that we're all sitting with this, the person next to you? But as we acknowledge these rough edges, maybe, or these tender places, as we sit in zazen, can we remember that this space of zazen is the Buddha's space of unlimited and unconditional wisdom. This is Prajnaparamita. This is the mother, the great wisdom mother of acceptance and courage and compassion. Just you're sitting. And this is what we're enacting right now, at this moment, even as you listen to my words in a less formal sitting. Zazen is the Dharma gate that opens and responds to our longing, like the love dogs, our thirst for freedom from unnecessary suffering. And our longing also for the generous care that we receive from our friends as we sit in the face of our own hesitations and our fears. As if the silent sitting as we take our posture in zazen and we hear the bell ring, all of it, a statement and an acknowledgement of, oh, I hurt and you hurt. And then we all sit upright in silent stillness as a way of expressing the essential truth that nothing is missing, nothing is lacking. As the birds sing us into a place of confirming our commitment with each breath, our commitment that's something like, I'm willing to sit in this way. And to assume the Buddha's shape, that is my body. This is the shape of my body, is Buddha's shape. And notice at the very same time how I can be caught in the desire for all of it to be different, better, please, not this. And again, to sit with a confidence that this very body is the Buddha. This is the mother of all wakefulness, even when we don't feel like it. Our feelings are not the measure of our wakefulness. We just take care of our posture. We take care of our breath and allow awakening to take care of itself. We all live in an ocean of fear and an ocean of love. Sitting together in this way, we're leading each other to a profound serenity in the midst of our suffering. This is composure, not dissociation or repression or ignoring the difficulties of life. You still feel it all. But this is seeing it all through. All. Because this is the gateway of the restoration of joy. Far beyond ordinary happiness. Far beyond our personal preferences. And when our habit patterns and our entanglements or hindrances begin to soften just a little, and the mind is not quite caught in fear quite so much. I would say not distracted by fear, even when we feel it, not lost in fear. And also not caught in, even in love, distracted by love or lost in love. This kind of composure allows the entire world to unfold outside of personal preference, for it to be one way or another. Then love and fear move together. And we realize the Buddha's mind and heart is not two things. No polarities, this face or that face. To understand suffering, we learn to love. To understand real love, we face this suffering. Rumi one last time. You have no idea how hard I look to bring a gift for you. Nothing seemed right. What's the point of bringing gold to the gold mine or water to the ocean? Everything I came up with was like taking spices to the Orient. It's no good giving my heart and my soul because you already have made so. Hopefully in my talk today, I've brought you a mirror. Look at yourself and remember me. And if you have things you'd like to discuss or question or bring forward, please do so. We have some time. Hi, Judy.
Hi. I love that you started and ended with that poem, because what I wanted to share with everybody was something that we did in our Dharma activity today. So Josh and Trudy trusted me with the task of leading the Dharma activities this week. And when I was thinking about it at home, my notes on the page felt inadequate to bring as a gift. But somehow the alchemy of the people responding and wholeheartedly to the ideas that I brought created something really beautiful. And I have to thank you because I adapted the relational haiku that you shared with us in Scotland.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And but I adapted.
I bet you had beautiful ones, huh?
Yeah, so what I did was I adapted it to follow on from Josh's talk today.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 questions for the 3 lines of the haiku.
Ah.
The questions were, where have you come from? What can you do about your world? What do you love about your world?
What do you love about your world?
What do you love about your world? So I'm just going to share with everybody a few of the haikus that came out of it.
Thank you.
I am of the earth. Meet it with compassion. I love the life force. I come from carbon. Practice compassionate action. Astonishing life.
Mm.
Not knowing at all, I'm willing to be undone. The way beauty emerges.
Oh my God.
One more.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have an image, please. Yes.
I come from ancient days. I must celebrate birth and death. Nature's resilient tree.
These are brilliant. Brilliant. The image I had as you were reading them is going for a walk, like we do wherever we are in the UK, and then just coming upon these things on the trail. Wouldn't that be amazing? Because that's how they're coming to me. I'm thinking about being there and then these gorgeous things come forward.
Yeah, it
And you
feels.
really understand, you already said it, that sometimes our prompt seems small or inadequate, but you hear in the response what the longing. People want to find freedom. They want to find the care. They want to find the spaciousness. And then that was what comes forth. And what a great way to do it. I love the way that you did that.
Yeah, it felt really miraculous. Yeah.
Well, and when they said that they had trusted you to do the Dharma activities, I thought, well, yeah, I trust her too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And those 3 questions, I didn't write them down, but if you'll send them to me, I want to use it. I'm going to now follow up with you with another group I'm doing.
We have Jill.
Now, there we go.
Hi, Flint.
Oh, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, and it's lovely to see everybody there in Sheldon as well. And I think why, a bit like Claire, I'm not entirely sure why I'm here, but I want to be here with you.
Yes.
And just the miracle of the connection of, and so I'm at home in Sheffield, and the miracle of the technology and all the work that Maria is doing is astonishing, because I've been able to, not at the same times, but even eat the same meals that they've been eating in Sheldon, because the recipes are up on the link tree. I'm not just attending this retreat in the evenings. I want to be connected, and there's been something really beautiful about going to, being at work, taking the retreat with me, and then saying the meal chants at lunchtime and at dinner time. It's been such a connecting experience, and knowing that Ben was there with you in Hawaii last week. And today I had a conversation with Todd Bankler from Apamada. And the threads, there's the analogy, and I love fabric and sewing, and I really enjoy it. And thinking about, and you speaking tonight. So today I got to sing along with Josh. That's the beauty about listening to the Dharma talks. I got to sing the whole song with you, Josh. So thank you for that. It was beautiful. And I've been thinking, what thread can I possibly bring? What have I got to offer?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've answered that question in your talk this evening. And it's just really moving to know that I'm part of the fabric. We're all part of the brocade, part of the fabric. And
You really can't not be. You can be more intentional, and your practice is your offering. And you may never know what difference it makes. That's just not up for us to know. It's for us to offer wholeheartedly. And you're doing it so beautifully. I love the way you're describing it, because you're not just witnessing. You've brought yourself into it. And that embodied immediacy that Josh was talking about is so important. And you can feel it.
mm.
And others will too, in ways you might not know, but it'll make a difference because of the shape you take.
Sometimes I take a bit of an arty shape. I know I can bring challenge sometimes.
Yay!
Part of your shape, huh? I mean, even beautiful roses sometimes have little thorns,
Yeah. And it's always met with openness, and I appreciate that.
Of course. I've never really experienced that from you, but I understand what you're saying. All of us have ways that we rub against things that later on we might have some wholesome regret about, but part of our shape, so we do our best. I appreciated just knowing that we could reach out when Ben was here and send a little something to you, and that would be received. Mm-hmm. That way he could celebrate a little about how well he did.
Yeah, that was amazing to get that photo of the two of you. And yeah, and I know you offered me the support of saying sometimes, what's really difficult is when love isn't enough. And when I got that photo, I just thought, sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is.
And
that's right.
And that's really powerful.
I know. I don't know if you can see this or not, but can you see the turtles?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he sent me a photo of turtles too.
Yeah. On his walk yesterday, he said, "Today I saw a family of sea turtles basking on the rocks, dogs and people all living in perfect harmony."
I thought he was... That
wouldn't have been his expression a few months ago. Thank you for you do see your practice into action. It's not all because of you, but you see something.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward so beautifully and wholeheartedly. And thanks for practicing with us.
It's been fun.
Yeah. When we chant the Metta Sutta, it says, remembering that this way of living is the best in the world. Oh yeah, we need to get up like this.
Have Trudy.
Mm.
With the goddess returns.
Sometimes I didn't know what you were going to talk about tonight, and
Me neither for until just
and I'm often so struck by that kind of unconscious connection. And I think I said to you last night, you know, for me, and I always feel kind of shy saying it in public, but, you know, my sense of Stone Woman has been really powerful again this week. And there's something about that energy and the Shilana gig and, you know, that kind of really strong female energy that I love.
Mhm.
And so just before I came down tonight, I wrote this. What you up to? I asked the old woman. Oh, you know, cooking up mischief, she said, talking to leaves, playing with the birds, and, you know, sometimes being a mountain, as well as a cloud, and occasionally an ocean. I said, when you have a little time, I'd love to spend it with you and see these mysteries for myself. Well, my dear, she said, as I am yourself, why don't you open your eyes and ears? I've been here forever.
Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. That's what we there's a symbolic thing that you do when you have a new Buddha in a temple where you open the eye.
Mm.
And there's a ceremony, and you have some wisdom water, and you have like a little brush. And you paint. There's more to the ceremony, but it's called opening the eye.
Mm.
The Buddha, but there's no new eye.
Mm.
It's
There's
all
no
there before. It's like, oh, the mirror reflects back. Ah,
Just wanted to share that.
yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Hope you'll put that on the link tree too.
It will.
Add it to our poems.
Thank you.
Ah, Brendan.
Hi, Flint.
Hey, it's good to meet you here, connect this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Last night, after inquiry with practice, I just felt so connected, I would say, and like you were saying at the end of your talk there, turning towards all of life, and feeling the suffering and the deep inquiry, deep questioning. And I went back to my bed. I just sat on my bed quietly, and my Sangha brother was on the bed next to me. We were both sort of sat there, not really in zazen, but sort of sipping our tea, just feeling. I sensed that I wasn't the only one with this either, just the connectivity of it all. I thought, what can I offer? What can I offer here? You know, I'm not really a huggy feely person. I just wanted to give something. So I wrote a little something. It's not a major thing. It's nothing special. I think that there might be something missing, and it might be a bit extra in there. I don't know.
Get on.
All right. So this is it.
After all of those disclaimers.
Tenderized and connected, turning towards all life, held in the living embrace of Sangha, taking up the sacred threads of true nature's timeless teachings, loving kindness being chief amongst them, and weaving them into the ancient brocade as we stumble through the dark forest, warm hand in warm hand, alone together, making our way towards the eventual joining.
Oh, gorgeous. That's an entire Dharma talk. sufficient, and direct.
Thank you.
And that offering, by the way, when you're sitting with your Dharma brother in silence, sipping tea, that's the offering. Your presence is, and then something beautiful and creative came out of it, which you wrote down. But it all comes back to presence.
The sitting, turning towards.
Yeah,
Turning
just
towards.
turning forward. Absolutely, that's it. Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, I'd like there's a poem. No, it's an old Celtic poem actually.
Yes.
It relates to this brocade, this ancient brocade thing. And I've said it before in a breakout room. I have to paraphrase it a bit because it's from memory.
Ah.
It's beneath the earth. There's a weaver, and she sits at two looms. With one hand, she weaves life up through the crust, and with the other, death down through the mould. And the sound of the weaving is eternity, which in the green world we name time.
Yeah, that's another one we need to add to this. That's quite beautiful and very touching to me. Yes. We're finding these images that are connecting us now and reminding us of our connection. And the universal connection that's beyond us, precedes us and will go on after us. And as the Celtic would say, into the earth, into all the elements.
I was thinking Naomi might like that one as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just in the interim here, I don't want to stop anyone from coming forward, but I just wanted to say very briefly, one of my early students, and a great benefactor to Buddhism in Austin, she came to me originally because she had a very serious breast cancer, and she was in treatment at the University Hospital in San Antonio, and she had to have such a strong treatment. They harvested her own bone marrow, took it out, gave her the chemotherapy, which would have killed her bone marrow. And then once that had done its work, put it back. And she's now 20 years past her cancer. She's done well. But she had to be in isolation when she had her bone marrow taken, because then she had no immune system. And she said each day a chaplain would come to visit, and she was very irritated by them. Coming in, doing the things they did. But she said one day a chaplain came she'd not seen before, a young man. He came in and she nodded for him to come in. He sat down in the chair next to the bed. He sat with her for about half an hour. And then at the end of that time, he determined it was time to stand up. He did so, and I think maybe he touched her foot and walked out. She said it was the most profound spiritual experience she'd ever had. Absolutely no words whatsoever, just his presence. Finally, they shut up and were with him. I say it a little casually there, but it really was a profound thing. Anyway. Sorry. Lynn.
It's hard to know what to say.
I know the feeling.
I'm just blown away by the beauty of the human soul. Just being here, and I've been doing the flowers this week and some of them are falling and some of them are blooming and some of them are halfway in their development, and it feels as if I'm watching and part of seeing the flowering of all of these beautiful humans.
You're sitting amidst a garden there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about in Josh's talk, he talked about opening the door to the young man, and I think that was what linked to the Frank poem.
Right.
And yeah, and I was thinking of, and I don't know whose phrase it is, because I don't always remember who the poet is and who the author is. None of those. But the door is always open. Do not go back to sleep. And it made me think. When we're sitting in Zazen, we're opening the door.
That's right. It's another Rumi poem, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just opening the door and opening the door, and we don't know what's at the other side. We don't know what's going to be there, but there's just the beauty of that, because when Josh was talking, it was a bit of scariness about it. There's somebody there that you've never met. There's a young man who was claiming that it was hard to, he had an appearance you might be afraid of. And it's so hard sometimes to open that door.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to sit with others, because they help me to keep opening the door.
Absolutely. I think sometimes, the bells to enter Zazen, the bell to stand up to walk, or the bell to sit again, you could just hear them each time as, are you willing to step through? Are you willing to open the door? Are you willing to step through? Are you willing to open the door? Maybe as simple as that would be enough.
And this is another door.
Yes. And fortunately, depending on the state of mind at the time, they never end. That you're not exhaust the Dharma. There will always be opportunities as we step into the inconceivable nature of who we are. That sense of beauty that you spoke about in the beginning. We all kind of work at our capacity to manage and be with, or tolerate, or whatever you want to call it, work with the difficulties in our lives. We forget that actually we're learning to bear up under the amount of love and beauty. And I say bear up because it sounds like something you have to tolerate, but it's true. It can be so powerful. We can kind of come apart equally with the beauty. And so we're learning to be a larger channel for that as well. And that is being a gift back to the world.
That's for everyone.
Yes, always.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're here at the end of another.
We have time for one more.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, got 3 minutes.
Hello.
Ah.
Tanzo.
Oh, we've got Jill.
I might not be able to do it in 3 minutes.
That's okay.
Yeah. so I wanted to speak a bit about how I'm being woven, and was so sort of cracked open by Josh's talk this morning, and I think it's been building. And something about the ancestors and the brocade that we arrive with, and then him singing John Denver. Every week I go to my mum and dad's on a Sunday and a Monday, and my dad has very progressed vascular dementia, and I sing that song to him every Sunday and Monday.
Oh, you do?
I do. I also sing Annie's song as well, but that's, and my dad's grandfather went with his grandmother to West Virginia.
Oh.
And yeah, and he died, and she came home alone with two boys. I don't know what happened to him, but
Oh my goodness.
so there was just, I hadn't, so it's a
Weaving.
weaving. And then yesterday, after dinner, I was sat opposite, and I can't remember what you might be able to help me. It's not a fresco, because that's on the ceiling, isn't it? What's the painting when it's just a perfect? I was sitting opposite John and Claire, and John was sitting, and Claire's head was on his shoulder. So it was just like this absolutely perfect image that I was just, I could have just, just sat and just.
Everything was there.
Everything was there. And it was just so beautiful to be beholden and to be with. And I didn't ever have that with my dad. And I've been very, very lucky with an absolute abundance of amazing women in my life. And more tricky for me has been with men. So I'm just weaving here. It just feels so important.
It is important, yeah.
My dad's mum died in childbirth, so he was a motherless boy.
Oh.
And his dad was at sea. It was just 1939. So
Okay.
yeah, and he was very loved by his aunt and uncle, who. So I was with longing, and I've been very much loving being with these men here, with Josh, with John, Bren, with Alistair. Really, yeah.
Like there's an essential.
And you,
well, I mean, like a vitamin or something that your system needs or wants. You began to take it in when you were watching John and Claire. You said you never had that with your dad, but now you have it in a certain way. Not the same. It's
Well, I think the way that is there, and this has been sort of expanding for quite a while actually, but because I do have it with my dad now.
yeah, right.
Which has been the most amazing thing about his dementia journey for me as his daughter.
Mm.
For my mum, you know, his conditioning was so much part of their fit in a very wonderful way. But for me, the falling away of his conditioning has meant that he's seen me as his beloved, and
Essence remains. All the other falls away.
well, it's like it's there, it's birthed, like
It's always been there. It gets revealed.
no, it didn't.
Maybe not expressed, but it's essence, you know. Yeah.
So,
it reminds me, since you made the image of the frescoes, it reminds me of the stories I've heard of cleaning, like the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling or something. It's all covered, and they begin to clean it, and suddenly it glows and starts to show through.
yeah. It's like, yeah. It's so amazing to be loved by my dad and to really love my dad.
And it's touching to me to hear you say it, but also it's touching to me to know that you can see it and you can receive it. You could let your conditioning be in the way of it, but you're not.
No.
No. And that I would wager when you were looking at Claire and John, someone was seeing you see them, and they were nourished by that.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to support something that's so dear and so essential in what we're practicing with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I guess we are at our time for the day.
I think so. Thank you so much. There's scarcely a dry eye in the house again. But thank you to all the people who were with us that we didn't hear, but it feels like there's just such an amazing connection. So thanks to everybody.
And I've loved that the birds helped.
I know they're glorious this week.
They really, I could hear them giving their talk.
I nearly did a video for you just to send you the birds.
We had a white egret come into the yard. White. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Sleep well, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
See you again tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye from...
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Feel free to unmute just to say bye-bye.
Oh, missing you all.
Yeah, I'm missing you, Karen. So good to
Bye,
have you.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Lots of love to you all. Take lots
Bye.
of
Bye-bye. Sleep well.
Thank
Bye.
Night night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Bye, Trevor.
I don't want to go. Anyone want to do an all-nighter?
With the count of 3.
Mm.
Miss you, Karen.
Be with you at 7:15 again tomorrow morning.
Oh.
Wow. Right, better go.
Ready? 1, 2. Night, night, everybody.
Night, night.